Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the invisible mechanics that are really driving the toxic state of our modern political discourse online. We constantly talk about how divided the world feels right now, but we rarely stop to look at the actual structural blueprint beneath it all.
So I want to start by posing kind of a radical idea about the unseen systems that dictate our digital lives. What if the biggest influence on modern politics isn't a politician, a political party, or even the media? What if it's actually an algorithm? Just this invisible system deciding what billions of us see, click, and share every single day.
Okay, here's our roadmap. We're going to hit 5 key areas: the invisible engine, the anatomy of outrage, the architecture of isolation, the real-world fallout, and finally, how we rewire the system. Let's just dive right in.
Part 1. The invisible engine. To really understand the chaos, we have to look under the hood at the foundational mechanics of the internet, the attention economy. It's a pretty simple but honestly brutal chain reaction. Platforms are in this fierce, constant competition for your attention. And why? Well, because the longer you stay engaged, the more ads they can show you and the more money they make. So these algorithms are ruthlessly trained to answer just one question: what is going to keep you staring at the screen?
Let's be real, we've all seen this happen. You write a thoughtful, balanced post, and it's lucky to get a handful of likes. But an outrage-filled rant, that generates thousands of comments and shares instantly. Our human psychology is just hardwired to react to conflict and fear over calm rationality. The algorithm notices that, it learns from it, and it feeds us more of it.
That brings us to Part 2, the anatomy of outrage. Let's explore exactly why anger travels so much faster than the truth. Outrage creates a profound sense of emotional urgency. Think about the last time you immediately shared something without even thinking. You probably felt angry, threatened, humiliated, fearful, or maybe vindicated. Social media algorithms are literally hunting for and pushing content that triggers these 5 intense emotions, because simply put, it guarantees engagement. So the crucial takeaway here is that social media heavily rewards absolute speed while actively punishing careful thought. Nuance requires time. Context requires attention. Understanding requires patience. And honestly, none of those things survive in a system that is built for rapid-fire scrolling and millisecond reactions. Because outrage spreads so much faster than facts, the messy, complex reality of the real world just gets completely flattened. It gets compressed into these dangerous, simplistic slogans like us versus them or good versus evil. It turns really nuanced societal debates into basic tribal warfare, which is absolutely terrible for actual understanding.
Moving on to Part 3, the architecture of isolation. What happens when billions of these highly emotional posts form structural walls all around us? Enter the echo chamber. Algorithms very quickly learn what you already believe, and then they just feed you a steady diet of exactly that. The result, a digital environment where opposing viewpoints effectively cease to exist. It's the complete structural isolation of the modern internet user. And being trapped inside this digital bubble causes a genuinely frightening psychological shift. First, our misconceptions go entirely unchallenged, which causes our political identities to harden into stone. From there, a deep distrust of anyone outside the bubble sets in, until eventually we begin to see our opponents not as fellow citizens with different ideas, but as literal enemies. Which leads us to Part 4, the real-world fallout. Because this hostility doesn't just stay confined to our screens, it bleeds directly into our actual democracy. Politicians and political movements are highly adaptive, right? They quickly learn what performs well online. Calm explanations lose attention. Extreme statements attract it. And this creates a totally twisted incentive structure. We've shifted away from the old political question of what's the best policy to the new algorithmic question, what will go viral? Politics becomes performance, shock becomes strategy, and conflict just becomes content. The blast radius of this algorithmic polarization is massive. Just look at the breakdown. In our local communities, it drives hostility and radicalizes individuals. In our institutions, it shatters trust and forces deep political gridlock. And across our broader information ecosystem, it acts as a turbo engine for misinformation, making it nearly impossible for us to solve shared problems together. We really have to remember that a healthy democracy actually requires disagreement, but it also absolutely depends on citizens recognizing each other's basic humanity. When algorithms are constantly rewarding division, that fragile foundation of coexistence simply crumbles. Okay, Part 5, rewiring the system. Now for the most important part of this whole explainer. How do we actually fix this architecture?
You know, it's incredibly easy to point the finger solely at big tech. But the reality is, it's a shared web of responsibility. Algorithms only amplify content. Human beings create, share, and engage with it. So tech companies, political leaders, the media, and yes, us as everyday citizens, we all have to step up.
First off, we absolutely must demand algorithmic transparency. Platforms need to pry open the black box. They have to explain exactly why certain content is shoved into our feeds and what specific signals influence that visibility. Transparency is the very first step toward actual accountability. We also need a fundamental shift in the business model itself. The current, flawed model rewards mere engagement, raw clicks, and rage, completely regardless of the truth. A healthy model needs to reward quality. Platforms must measure and promote accuracy, credibility, and context. A post's success should never be defined solely by the amount of blind attention it can steal from you.
Beyond just the code, we need systemic interventions. That means teaching digital literacy in schools so the public is harder to deceive. It means platforms should encourage exposure to credible opposing arguments rather than hiding them. We need total transparency for political ads. And crucially, we really need to bring back long-form discussions, like podcasts and actual debates. Complex issues simply cannot be solved in 280 characters.
And on a personal level, we all have to practice a bit of digital discipline. Before you hit share, just run through a quick mental checklist. Is it true? Is it verified? Is it actually helping understanding, or am I just spreading anger? Small choices, made by billions of people every single day, genuinely possess the power to reshape the internet.
Consider this for a second. Algorithms are not elected, yet they increasingly influence what people believe, fear, support, and oppose. The challenge of our time isn't to eliminate technology, but to bend it so that it serves democracy rather than distorting it.
I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. While algorithms might shape our feeds, we still have the power to shape our choices. What changes do you think social media platforms should actually make to reduce polarization? And more importantly, what steps are you going to take the next time you log on? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you.